folks?
I answer back.
Yeah, they went out.
Very
and
blunt.
you tell them where you normally vote at.
Probably.
Call the town council meeting to order for September 22nd, 2020.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Warner, is the fire chief going to bring up so I can hand him the keys to the fire truck at 7:30? It's scheduled for 7:30.
Yes, sir.
All right, what we're going to do is we'll take a recess at 7:30 to go check the fire truck and then come back if we haven't finished. Let's see, we got the minutes from August the 25th, 2020. If you've reviewed it, have any additions or deletions or corrections, please let me know. If not, it's stand approved as presented. Report of the town manager.
Thank you, Mayor Rush, members of council. Several items to report tonight. First, I wanted to begin by clarifying some questions regarding the extension of a moratorium on late fees and disconnections for delinquent electric utility accounts. The recent actions by the Governor and General Assembly only apply to those utilities that are regulated by the State Corporation Commission. Public utilities such as ours are not under the purview of the SCC currently. So we've had some questions from our customers about that and just wanted to offer that information up front. Also want to report the electric utility has completed line relocation work on Route 43 and has submitted invoices to VDOT for reimbursement of our costs. The Bedford Gateway sign along Highway 460 on the western end of town is scheduled to be installed during the week of October 12th, and let's certainly hope that happens. We are approximately 40% complete overall with our closure of the operating landfill on Orange Street. Also to date, the town has received a little over $300,000 in reimbursement from Bedford County for costs covered by the CARES Act. This specifically covers personal protective equipment and the town's cost for the business assistance grants. Also want to announce and remind everyone that Cleanup Week commences September 28th. I would ask that citizens be somewhat patient with us. Our public works crews are going to be diverted from their normal tasks, and frankly, we're a little short-staffed at this point, so we may not get to you on exactly the scheduled day, but we will get to you. And also, I wanted to announce that the fire company's newest pumper tanker will be on display at 7:30 p.m. in the parking lot adjacent to the municipal building, if anyone wishes to check that out. And that concludes my report, but I'll be pleased to respond to any questions you may have.
Was it 43 or 122?
Both. We finished 43, and we have a few items left on 122 near Forbes Mill.
Yeah, okay.
How'd the power go out today?
That was due to an error in the grid outside of our own service area. Frankly, there was a piece of equipment that failed in Roanoke. It just so happens that it passes through that to get to us. Fortunately, I think we restored power by rerouting our system within 15 minutes.
You hit Rocky Mount too.
I believe it did, yes.
Any other questions for this town matter? Okay. Appearances before council, Deborah. Council comments. I'll start to my right this time instead of Mr. CG. I'll start to Bruce. Have any comments?
No comment.
No comment.
I got a few. First, I'd like to thank Public Works Police Department for their efforts on Saturday night at the Battle of the Bands. It was a pretty well-attended community event. Thought it went pretty well. The mayor and I also attended a rally on Sunday afternoon in support of our local law enforcement, and it was another well put together event and something I was glad to be at. And then the last thing, Mayor, I've had a citizen approach me and ask some questions on the hunting ordinances. And I've talked to Todd, I've talked to Bart, talked to Will, talked to you. There's basically two ordinances right now. There's an ordinance that allows hunting by gun, and there's an ordinance that allows hunting by archery or bow. And there's some discrepancies between the two ordinances. For example, the three biggest ones that I think these can be corrected fairly easily with just maybe redrafting the ordinance, but if everybody thinks it's makes sense. One, the time frame on the hunting by rifle, your permission slip is good for 5 years. Hunting by bow, your permission slip is good for a year. The hunting by rifle, your permission slip does not require you to put the names of the hunters that are going to be hunting on that property. The hunting by bow requires you to put the names of the hunters that are going to be hunting on that property. And the third piece is by gun, you don't have to hunt out of a stand. You can hunt on the ground. The archery ordinance says you have to hunt out of a stand. So those are a couple things that were brought to my attention by a town citizen that hunts. For some of you who don't know, these ordinances are, you can hunt with a rifle, well, not a rifle, shotgun. If you own 10 acres or more in the town, you can hunt by bow if you own 3 acres or more in town. So, like I said, these two ordinances were drawn up at separate times, and that's kind of why there's some discrepancies between the two. So, Mr. Mayor, if you would, I'd maybe like the Public Safety Committee to take a look at that and see if we could get some of those things corrected, or see what they come up with there.
I agree with you, Tim, and Mr. Warner, can you address that as sooner rather than later as far as, I think it's Stacy and who else is on that?
I can't remember.
All right, but anyway.
Public safety?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Darren and Stacy.
We ain't been so long.
Well,
Well, give you something
everything's
to-
been going well.
Under our leadership.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, that's all I have.
Mr. Sly.
I don't have any comments.
Darren. CG.
I'm good.
Well, I'm full of them. I was with Tim up there at the Liberty Lake, DW, and of course, Todd's folks showed up, but y'all did an excellent job with Business Coalition. Was it 94 cars from the cruise in, and because I was there, and there was cars there that I haven't seen. They actually stayed. I think it attributed to the Battle of the Bands. I don't know how many people, but it was a good event. And we need to use that facility for more and more things like that. It was a good turnout. Of course, everybody's been cooped up, so they want to get out. And it was probably social distance and whatever, because I did go up. I was a little late, so Tim did the welcome for me at the Sunday for the law enforcement thing. But, do you all want to change the code of town the first meeting in November?
Do we have to?
We don't have to. That's council's decision.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd rather.
You like it?
Kind of want to watch the returns myself.
Well, it's whatever, we
We're
changed
second
the
Tuesday,
first
we're only talking
meeting
about,
in November.
Now, you're talking about wearing a coat.
Coat and tie.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
We don't have to, because you don't have to dress up in coat and tie, it's just, that's what we kind of all do. If everybody likes being like this,
I don't care.
Terrence gonna be dressed up either way.
I mean, I usually,
Yeah.
well, you dress up,
if I
anyway.
come from work,
What's the pleasure of the council?
Schedule's fine with me. Business schedule's fine with me.
Business casual, just like we got. Okay. Thank you. October the 17th at 9 o'clock, we're having a visioning meeting at Liberty Lake Park. What I would like for you to do, and we was to have this meeting back in March and then COVID kind of took over, is exactly what it says. Would you make a list of all the wants and wishes you'd like to see the town do within reason? And shoot that with me to an email to me, because I'd like to try to have some organization to, as we talk about it, we'll probably have flip charts and we'll rank them as they come in. But first we'll have a foyer with the Honorable William W. Berry for 30 minutes. Then we're gonna have department heads, and I've asked Bart to ask the department heads just do a synopsis on what their capital is. We don't need a full-blown presentation, just where they're thinking about what they may need. And by then, we'll have lunchtime, and then we'll get together on visioning. You know,
Starts at 9, is it?
starts at 9, and we'll be, they're gonna feed us breakfast, and they're gonna feed us lunch, right, Denver?
At Liberty
Like,
Lake?
at Liberty Lake.
At Liberty Lake.
And it'll just be, when it's all said, it'll basically just be council and Bart at the afternoon meeting, probably Sonia. And we'll talk about a
This is
lot of you all.
just
that
big
wanted to
picture
know.
stuff, not the budget.
Excuse me?
Just big picture stuff, not to
Just-
do with the budget. Because I
Right.
think weren't we
Yeah.
talking about
Right.
that, to try and do that.
For example, we got it, I'm gonna tell you, we need to do something with the land we bought at Liberty Lake. So Brian's gonna build the next Empire State Building. You know, it's those kind of things. And then we'll see.
And it doesn't have to be in the short term.
No, it
You
can
know,
be short term and long term.
Medium, long term kind of things.
I know I thought you had said something about meeting in October to discuss budget issues, where, you know, as far as the raises for the follow-up on that, no, Mr. Slaughter wanted to look into that. You know, is that gonna be just something at a regular meeting, or?
Well, we're gonna have more than one, but I wanted to do the visioning first, and then we wanted to get an idea of what capital projects we're gonna be looking at, because we needed to know that when we're looking at this visioning also. And what I'd like to do is have that act together so we can pass a budget next year with ease.
Don't be here.
No comment.
Okay. Council committees, who goes first? Bruce.
Want me to go first? Streets Committee had a meeting tonight, discussed several things. So I think one of the most important ones, we discussed a little bit about the Highway Department bringing us a vision of a roundabout. We will have a public meeting on that in the near future. Main thing that came out was a left turn lane, I think, that we think is coming up and should be carefully considered by this council in the near future, which is right there at Longwood, stopping on the right hand going out of the other thing I think of some consequence was, we've been told that DW has informed us that they want to up our cost on tire taking in. In the past, we've been charged $1 a tire buying a manual tire. He is going to $3 a tire. We had between 1,000 and 1,400 every year. So if we don't go up, we're going to impair some costs there. And I think we need to go to a $3 charge, just and keep it reasonable. Other than that, I'm gonna let it go.
Your turn.
Finance Committee met before our meeting tonight. Bart kind of hit the first part of the meeting. We talked about the CARES funding that we've already kind of spent, the business grant program and the PPE and E that we got reimbursed. The second half of the meeting, we discussed a couple proposals for hazardous pay. And we're going to be fine-tuning those proposals and bring those to council at the first meeting in October with a recommendation. And then we also discussed the possibility of buying several police vehicles from this CARES Act as well. So those are things that we will be discussing at our next meeting. We will be having a public hearing just so that we can put that whole list together out there so that the public will know what we've spent or plan to spend our CARES Act funding on. And that was pretty much everything we talked about finance this evening.
Okay, the revisions to the agenda. I'd like to add a closed session regarding acquisition of property at the end of this current agenda that we have. That being said, public hearing. Budget amendment for rollover FY 2020 funds and reappropriation of FY 2020 purchase orders and into the FY 2021 adopted budget. Public hearing is open.
Would you like for me to read the notice?
Yes,
Mr. Mayor?
sure.
Notice hereby given that the Town Council of the Town of Bedford, Virginia, at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, September 22nd, will hold a public hearing in the Town Municipal Building to consider a budget amendment for rollover of fiscal year 2020 funds and reappropriation of fiscal year 2020 purchase orders into the fiscal year 2021 adopted budget. At the end of fiscal year 2020, the town had numerous projects which were not completed and or were encumbered by a purchase order. Funds for these projects are needed in order to complete designated work and therefore must be reappropriated to the current fiscal year budget. The cumulative total of fiscal year 2020 rollover funds is $1,597,174.31, and the cumulative total of fiscal year 2020 purchase orders is $1,201,214.88. Virginia Code provides that any locality may amend its budget to adjust the aggregate amount to be appropriated during the fiscal year as shown in the currently adopted budget, provided, however, any such amendment which exceeds 1% of the total expenditures shown in the currently adopted budget must be accomplished by first publishing a notice of a meeting and holding a public hearing before amending the budget. This code applies to all locality funds, including the general fund, enterprise funds, capital funds, etc. And because the cumulative amount of the appropriations exceeds 1% of the current year adopted budget, this public hearing is required. A copy of the detailed amendment has been available in my office, and all who are interested are invited to speak to this matter.
Again, the public hearing is open. Being there is no one in the galley, public hearing is closed. Okay, consent agenda, appointment of members to the redevelopment housing authority.
Mr. Rusty Mansell and Mr. Jim Messier are currently serving on the Redevelopment and Housing Authority and have expressed an interest in being reappointed. A vacancy currently exists on the authority, and Ms. Gail Davis has expressed an interest in being appointed to fill that vacancy. The positions in the vacancy have been appropriately advertised, and no other citizens have volunteered to serve. Therefore, council is requested to take appropriate action regarding the reappointment of Mr. Mansell and Mr. Messier, and to consider appointment of Ms. Davis to serve on the authority at this meeting.
Okay, and let me add that Ms. Davis is currently serving on the Planning Commission. Sure, she's been vetted and well known. Is there a motion?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Black?
Aye.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Johansson?
Aye.
Mr. Schley?
Aye.
Mr. Schoen?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mayor Rush.
Aye.
Motion passes with 7 ayes.
Okay, the next consent is appointment of members to the Economic Development Authority.
Ms. Lynn Scott and Mr. David Sensenig have requested reappointment to the Economic Development Authority with their terms set to expire November 30th, 2024. There is also a current vacancy on the authority, and Mr. Ryan Kirkpatrick has expressed an interest in being appointed to fill the remainder of that term, which is set to expire November 30th, 2022. These positions in the vacancy have been appropriately advertised, and at this point, no other citizens have volunteered to serve. Tonight, staff is requesting that council reappoint Ms. Scott and Mr. Sensenig to the Economic Development Authority, said terms to expire November 30th, 2024, and to take whatever action you deem appropriate regarding Mr. Kirkpatrick's interest to serve on the authority, said term to expire November 30th, 2022.
Now, let's have a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second? I want this. Is there a second? All right. Let me add a little bit of verbiage on this. Back March 14th of 2017, Mayor Wondry at the time, we formed a special committee on board appointments. And they did it for a minute, and they kind of got away from it. But they had to fill out an additional form for the appointment. The reason I bring this up, Mr. Kirkpatrick just sent us an email, and we need to have him fill out the application form. So I would suggest that we hold off on that until we get all the paperwork on
On all three, or just him?
it. Just him. We have paperwork or experience with the current other two. Does that make sense, Egan? Because they are being reappointed. This Patrick is brand new. So I'll need a motion.
Well, we got a motion on the floor, but I'd like to amend that motion to appoint Lynn Scott and Dave Sensenig to the, this is the Economic Development Authority, and that we table Mr. Kirkpatrick's application, our appointment, until we get the application completed. Just, I'm sure Mr. Kirkpatrick's fine, but I'd just like to have that on the record that we have that application. So that's my motion, that we appoint, reappoint Ms. Scott, Mr. Sensenig, and we table Mr. Kirkpatrick's appointment until we get his application.
Second. Roll call.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Johansson?
Aye.
Mr. Schley?
Aye.
Mr. Schoen?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Black?
Aye.
Mayor Rush.
Aye.
Motion passes with 7 ayes.
Okay, new business, let's see here, we can do this one. Rollover and reappropriation of funds for incomplete project, June 30th, 2020.
Mayor Rush, members of council, I'll summarize the action form. Attached is a list of items regarding numerous projects and work that were not completed during fiscal year 2020. Tonight, staff is requesting that you approve the rollover and reappropriation of funds in the amount of $1,597,000 $1,597,174.31 to provide funds for the various items in the attached list. And we're also requesting that you designate that money from the fiscal year 2020 prior year fund balance to offset the increase in expenditures.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Approve the rollover request for fiscal year 2020.
I'll second.
Discussion.
Just one quick question, I forgot to ask this in finance. Sonny, in the last finance committee meeting, when we went over these, and the recommendations, I think there were maybe one or two items we talked about making sure we added into the rollover request. I know it was the gateway signage and something else. Are those items now in here? Okay, all right. Just one. Thank you. And the finance committee did recommend that we, I mean, like I said, we discussed pretty much in detail all these, and we recommend going ahead with that.
First, motion is, was there a second?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did it.
Roll call.
Mr. Johannesson?
Aye.
Mr. Sly?
Aye.
Mr. Schoen? Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Black?
Aye.
Mr. Haley? Mayor Rush?
Aye.
Motion carries with 7 ayes.
Reappropriation of funds from outstanding purchase orders for fiscal year 2020.
At the end of each fiscal year, the town has purchase orders which are outstanding, representing work that has not been completed. These represent goods and services that have already been ordered but have not yet been received, or any invoices that have not been paid as of June 30th, 2020. Tonight, I'm asking the town council request to approve the reappropriation of purchase orders per the attached list that I'd submitted previously in the amount of $1,201,214.88 to provide funds for incomplete local government projects, and also to designate that amount from fiscal year 2020 prior year fund balance to offset the increase in expenditures.
Is there a motion? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
I think, real quick, I would just like to point out that a lot of this in this rollover request is in the electric utility, with the biggest part of that, that speed increaser, I believe, in the turbine or whatever.
That's Snowden, yes, sir.
The improvements at Snowden that we've been working on, so that's the biggest chunk of that money.
I got one more question. Piggyback on what you said earlier. The line item that is for gateway signage, that's, it says ordered amount 100,059 open. Is that just phase one? So,
I think that is just phase one, is that correct?
And the rollover that we just approved is phase two, right?
Correct.
Because I know we have
that's what I wanted to make sure.
yeah, because we have appropriated both of those.
460 is the POs,
That's right.
the other is the plan. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, just clarify.
Anything else from the council? Roll call.
Mr. Sly?
Aye.
Mr. Schoen? Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Black?
Aye.
Mr. Haley? Mr. Johannesson? Mayor Rush?
Aye.
Motion carries with 7 ayes.
Okay, we'll go to recess, and we come back, we'll be going into closed session. See you in 5 minutes.
Is he out there?
They should have known. Call.
pursuant to.
Oh, there it is. Oh, acquisition. Motion to go into closed session pursuant to section 2.2, 3711, parens A, parens 3 of the Code of Virginia of 1950 as amended, for the acquisition or disposition of publicly held real estate property, where discussion in open meeting would adverse.
I'm sorry, can you back up and say that again?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go into
Okay, this is
closed.
just for the closed session.
Yeah, for closed session, acquisition
Aye.
of property.
Sorry, I was half asleep.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Have a motion.
I know, we just fight.
Somebody did a motion.
We're voting.
All right, where are we? Mr. Black?
Aye.
Mr. Haley? Mr. Johannesson? Mr. Schley?
Aye.
Mayor Rush?
Aye.
All right, we're in closed session.
Okay, we need. We don't have that.
This makes no sense to me.
For me, $1, you can put your own damn building.
Then say that. Don't make them waste their time.
I'm one of seven.
Can we get that? The camera's on? Perfect.
Okay.
We ready?
Be it resolved that the council of the town of Bedford hereby certifies that only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the council.
So moved.
Second.
Who was second? Mr. Haley?
Yes.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Black?
Aye.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Johannesson?
Aye.
Mr. Sly?
Aye.
Mr. Schoen?
Aye.
Mayor Rush?
Right.
We're out of closed session.
We adjourn.
All right.